It is considered Hollywood's biggest night when all the stars come out, figuratively speaking, of course, a night when they make speeches that often prove it's a good thing those actors have writers. I am joined by the Ebru think tank, Barna Donovan, a communications professor at St. Peter's University, Paul Levinson, a communications professor at Fordham University, and Jose Lopez, who is a physics professor at Seton Hall University, and he's going to look at the scientific side of the Emmys. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't know there was.
Or the Oscars, not the Emmys. I will start with you, Jose, since I picked on you first. What was the highlight of the night?
I thought Best Actor. I thought he.
Which was who?
Eddie Redmayne.
Redmayne.
I can never pronounce that name, and I never will. Looks like.
Yeah.
I've been practicing since the Oscars. I thought he was phenomenal in that movie as Stephen Hawking, as a physicist there. I also thought The Imitation Game was a great movie, but it really wasn't. It got a Best Script, I believe, Best Writer. Those two movies I thought really were great movies. And of course, Selma, I was really disappointed nothing happened there.
Exactly. Barney, your highlight from the Oscar show. What do you?
I liked J.K. Simmons' speech, especially when he tells everybody to say hello to their parents if they're lucky enough that their parents are still alive. That was very nice, because people can. Some people are very nervous at making the acceptance speech. There we go.
Or even being on a panel on the show.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
There we go, exactly.
What I found what was interesting about J.K. Simmons is he is like a journeyman actor. We have seen this guy as a character actor for years, doing the farmers commercials and things like that. And for this guy to win Best Supporting Actor is actually inspiring to us journeyman actors ourselves. Yeah, so I thought that was a highlight. Paul, what was your highlight from the night?
Well, I love J.K. Simmons also. I loved him on The Closer, on Law and Order. But I'm going to go with Eddie Redmayne as well.
Was his speech impactful? What was it about his win?
Well, it's more the fact that someone from that movie won. In fact, I predicted here last week, but it was more wishful thinking than a real prediction, that The Theory of Everything would win. But it's such an inspiring movie. And I don't know, maybe it's me, but to some extent I'm sick and tired about movies, about people who, you know, have these tragic situations and they don't really succeed all that much. And here you have a story of someone who has this debilitating disease, Stephen Hawking, and you know, he's the current Einstein. And I just found that whole movie and the portrayal of him in the movie inspiring.
I haven't seen it. What I did see, which I was very impressed by, and apparently so were the Oscar judges, was Birdman. What was your take on Birdman?
I don't get Birdman. I honestly don't get it. I mean, I enjoy the cinematography of it and the way he directed it. And I think he's a brilliant director. I think he did deserve the Oscar for that, but the movie, I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. I didn't think that was the best movie this year, but that's my opinion.
I think from a visual standpoint, Barna, and you might agree with me, I thought it was worthy of at least the nomination. Yeah. The fact that it looked like one continuous shot, that it seemed very much like a movie about a play, about a movie. It was. I liked that aspect of it because it intrigued me. Jose was like, I hated that aspect of it.
Well, I agree, absolutely. I mean, I was, for me, that was my second choice. I loved the film. I loved Boyhood a little more. But I'm happy that Birdman won it. And yes, I agree that I love it when a filmmaker really does something that the Oscar's supposed to reward, an achievement in something. And things like that, the continuous take, the very subjective point of view, because that's another interesting thing about the film is that you're seeing these events through the Michael Keaton character's eyes, where he does seemingly magical things, and you realize, and wait a minute, I'm seeing inside his head, and this is how he sees reality. That I like those little touches.
Did you see the movie, Paul?
Yes, I did. I thought it was a.
Did he live or die at the end?
Good question. I think it's subject.
Spoiler alert! You haven't seen it.
I think it's subject to our interpretation.
Right.
You know, in a way, it's like, to make a wild connection. What's the color of that dress that everybody's talking about? It's in the mind of the beholder, which is part of the enjoyment of the movie.
Right.
But I will say this. You know, Hollywood loves itself. And so I wasn't surprised.
Well, that's why I called it the self-congratulatory night. I can't stand it.
Yeah, but that's why the movie had to win. In other words, it's a movie about the very people who made it.
And it also parallels Michael Keaton's life, and I thought that was interesting. And he's basically a washed-up actor who has one last shot at making it, and he did, which is kind of nice. I mean, everybody likes As we were talking about, I think a couple of weeks ago, people like to build people up in this culture, then rip them down.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with Michael Keaton. He's a redemption story with this movie. Other movies that were highlights of the year, other moments that were highlights from the Oscars. Jose?
I think The Imitation Game really was it was a kind of an obscure story, but a very key historical event. I mean, if the work that Turning had done there in the discovery of basically building a computer that broke the Nazi code, I think that was an amazing story. And the cinematography of the movie was great, the acting, everything was great, and it got writing, which I was really happy about. But I really thought it should have been higher up there.
We saw an over 40 actress win a big award, Julianne Moore for Still Alice. Have you seen her performance, Barna? What's your reaction to her win?
Oh, I'm happy that she won. And I liked it for a lot of the reasons that I keep going back to Boyhood. There's a nice subtlety, both to her performance, like with the other film, but with her performance, that I think it's easier sometimes on an actor to really go over the top, to chew the scenery, really do something really outrageous. But a role like hers, where you see her very slow, steady deterioration, and somebody to pull it off so well, I'm impressed, and I congratulate her.
I'll tell you this, as an actor, it is the easiest thing in the world. If you're comfortable in front of a camera, it's simple, because the camera's right there, the director's right there, and he's telling you step by step exactly what he wants, and you get to do it as many times as you want until you get it right. So you're right. I think she's a great actress, and she's done, I think with the Oscars, it's often a Lifetime Achievement Award. But the reason why I have a problem with a lot of this, oh my God, I can't believe I won, is because, they're not repairing heart valves, and they're not coming up with the theory of everything.
Right.
They're actors.
Yeah, right.
And what was your take, Paul, on some of the political comments that came out? I know that Sean Penn made a little jab or joke about illegal immigrants.
Well, this is nothing new for the Oscars. There was Marlon Brando's famous rant, or whatever it was, about, and when he calls upon Sacheen Littlefeather to come up and get the award for him. So I think actually it's good. I think, let's face it, we are a political culture. Movies don't exist in a vacuum. It's perfectly appropriate that people who win awards have opinions. And hey, if I won an Oscar for something, when else would I have a chance to talk to millions of people and make a point? So good for them. And by the way, I give credit to Neil Patrick Harris. I was a little skeptical at first. I think he did a really fine job. He started out with that joke about the best and the whitest, well taken, and went on to really host the show quite well.
I like Neil Patrick Harris. I feel he has that Johnny Carson way about him, like a devil-may-care attitude. I think it's also great because, he's bridged a lot of gaps in our culture, where he's kind of a mainstream hero to a lot of people, regardless of what his outside life is like. Right. One thing I didn't like was him in his underwear. Right. And I'll tell you why, I just don't like this whole dumbing down of our culture where we see how low we can go. Jose, what's your take? Am I just a geezer?
No, I've said that many times on the show. These lowbrow comedy shots, these current comedy in America is horrible. Right. In my personal opinion, it's all like written by 8-year-olds, it seems, and it's not written by 8-year-olds. It's funny to them, but I don't get it. And that was the one scene I didn't really like either. I completely agree with you. His performance.
Everybody in the world is watching the Oscars. Grandmas, grandpas, grandkids, old people, young people, and we don't want to see this guy in his underwear. That's how I feel about it. Barna?
Okay, I have to disagree.
Okay.
I noticed that
I want that.
It was obviously an homage to Birdman, to the scene where he gets caught outside. And I like that.
But he could have done it in oversized boxers instead of tighty whities or something.
But did Michael Keaton do it in his head? Did he really go outside? That's what I don't get about.
I think he did go outside.
Yeah, I feel like he did.
So he physically.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I agree completely about lowbrow humor. This was the problem with The Interview, the movie. Actually, it was in many ways, it was a very savvy, sharp movie, but it was brought down by idiotic lowbrow humor. Not that I'm some kind of prude. I like that humor too, but enough's enough already.
Right.
By the way, I want to give you credit as being an actor, because apropos of acting, the hardest thing to do is for someone to play themselves or play what they do. And I know that you've done that on House of Cards, and you're good, but sadly not everyone is that good. You see a lot of anchors like Chris Matthews, I like him as an anchor. He's god-awful when he portrays himself.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there are two types of newscasters. Newscasters who are very good performers and newscasters who are very good journalists. Sometimes they don't jibe. Like, for example, not to divert too much, but Jake Tapper is an excellent reporter, and in my opinion, he's an awful anchor. But I don't know if you've watched it at all. But you know, and it's not. You know, they're great anchors, and you know, Anderson Cooper comes from a performing background. He's a great anchor. You know, so it depends on your perspective and where you're coming from. Other highlights from the Oscars: Lady Gaga.
Well, you know, listen, I thought she was fabulous. I didn't know she had it in her. You know, she hit the notes beautifully. She was a pleasure to hear. She also looked good. And again, maybe this is a question of personal taste. I like what she looked like in that Oscar
Now, for those of us who were out of the country at the time and didn't see the Oscars, what did Lady Gaga actually do for the audience who didn't see it?
Well, she sang a Julie Andrews song.
Okay.
And, you know, she sang it beautifully, almost as good as Julie Andrews in the first place. And she was dressed, I think, in a beautiful dress, and her hair wasn't purple or, you know.
And she's been doing that. She's been performing a lot with Tony Bennett, for example.
That's
I think they have an album together, and that was a Julie Andrews medley from A Sound of Music, apparently.
That's right.
Other highlights from the evening?
I enjoyed the redemption moment of John Travolta and Ina Menzel on that he finally got her name right this time around.
Funny.
So I thought that was really a nice touch from last year's Oscar.
And then apparently he was given a hard time about a kiss that he gave to Scarlett Johansson on the red carpet. Did you hear about that controversy, Barna?
Right. Poor John. I mean, he mispronounced a name last year. He was given a hard time about that for over a year, and now he pronounces it perfectly.
Right.
And he gives Scarlett Johansson a kiss. And you know, if you go and snap a picture of somebody at just the right moment, at the right angle, you can make them look creepy. So there's this meme that's going around.
There's something though about John Travolta lately that does seem creepy. I don't know what it. I grew up on Welcome Back, Kotter. I loved him. I wanted to be like Mr. Kotter, John Travolta, Vinnie Barbarino. I talked like this all the time when I was in high school. But there's something creepy about him now. What is it, Paul?
I don't know. Maybe it was Face Off, that movie that he was in. That was like the ultimate creep movie.
Right.
Well, I don't find him creepy. I think he's, you know, an interesting character, and you know, he has a lot of flair, and you know, he's colorful, and hey, go for it. But I also agree with Barna. I mean, you can't do anything. You know, God forbid you kiss someone. You know, everybody's on your
Well, that's
case.
the curse of social media now, because everybody is sitting in judgment, where with their phones to do Twitter, and the hashtag is instantly created. I'm sure it's hashtag Travolta creepy kiss or something like that is out there.
And all these celebrities have millions upon millions of viewers on Twitter. Like Ellen DeGeneres has 40 million followers, and Lady Gaga is somewhere in the realm of like 60 million. So I mean, any picture they take, it becomes instant. It gets out there in seconds.
It's a double-edged sword. It helps promote movies. It helps promote them. It also helps bring them down. Thanks, guys, for all your thoughts. The Ebru Think Tank here talking about the Oscars. When we come back, we're going to talk about all those tweets and other things that you do online through net neutrality. New FCC rules looked at and examined after this.